Hi guys, it's me, Charmise, aka Professor Mo, and I am back. It's been a little bit because, to be fair, or to be honest, or to be transparent, I don't really know how to record while my car is on with the air on. And the time that I did, I recorded a 12-minute video, and when I tried to listen to the playback, it had no sound. In the time that I did record with my car turned off, I got so hot and sweaty and my phone overheated. So, in keeping in line with the modules that I had planned, today's module would be module 3, which is talking about grand opening, grand closing. As you can see, I have a special guest here. This is Ezekiel. He is 9 months old. But yeah, so we are going to talk about some ways to open and to close your speech. I want you to keep in mind that when you are doing a speech, much like a book or any kind of conversation, you should hope to hook people relatively quickly. And I think in public speaking, people jump boringly or quickly into a topic, not considering did they even pique the audience's interest. So it matters how you start a speech. It also matters how you end. Later in the term or later in some of the videos, I will talk about credibility. And two of the types of credibilities that I do discuss are initial credibility and terminal credibility. Initial credibility is generally before you even open your mouth up until the beginning of when you start your speech. And terminal credibility is the very end. Oftentimes, the last thing that someone says sticks with you. In speeches, the last little bit that you say should stick with someone. That's why it's important to give a grand opening and grand closing. I always tell my students about one of the GMC graduations that I went to where the keynote speaker was talking about her journey as an author. And one of the things that she ended with was she posed a question to the audience, and she essentially said, like, what do you want your story to be? And I thought about it for a good little minute on my drive home. I was like, wow, Charmise, what do you want your story to be? So those are the things that matter. I hate, and hate's a strong word, I strongly dislike when people say, hey, my name is Charmise and today my speech is about. That's not gonna hook an audience. When people close, they're like, thank you. That's not going to leave a lasting impression on an audience. So again, today we're here to discuss grand openings and grand closings. So as it relates to grand openings, some ways to hook an audience for a speech are to start with a statistic. You can pose a question. You can do call and response. You can do song lyrics. Tell them, baby. You can do a quote. I love a good little story, a story with a little hook that segues into your actual topic. There's so many things that you can do to pique the audience's attention. One of the funnest things that a student did, his speech was about college loan money, but he played a song and he brought one of those money guns and he sprayed money. That didn't really read college loan money, but it did pique the audience's attention because it was a good song and it was just an unconventional way to begin the speech. But I love when people ask a question or a series of questions that just build up to what the actual topic is. I also love a good little story, something that is just going to segue so perfectly into your speech. Once you've done the hook, that's like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, unless you do a story. A story might be a little bit longer, a story or anecdote. Another thing to do in addition to your hook that kind of seals it is that credibility that says I know a lot about the topic, or that relatability. Sometimes your topic doesn't necessarily resonate with the audience. Sometimes your topic may not relate, whether it's gender, religion, or maybe just the generation that you're in. A lot of times the students do speeches about things that I can't necessarily relate to. But I've had some really strategic students kind of bring in the storyline for me. Or I'm older than my students in most instances. I'm like the age of their parents. So I might mention something that jogs their memory or could make them remember or at least buy into what I'm talking about. When we talk about like pandemics, obviously we just had COVID, but up until then we hadn't really had much going on like that. So you would have to kind of dial it back. When we talk about the recession, like there's things that you have to kind of tie into the subject to make it worthwhile for everybody that's listening. Again, like we've talked about, not everyone is your target audience, but once you've hooked them, make the audience relate to the topic, whatever that looks like for you. Whatever current event you could tie in, whatever trend you could tie in, that hook and relatability and or credibility makes it so that your audience is interested, feels like they're going to get something from the topic that you're talking about, and that you know what you're talking about. So grand openings. Open your speech with posing a question. Open your speech with a song lyric, a little call and response, story time. A statistic can be a scare tactic, or it could just be that one thing that really draws the audience in. So I highly recommend some type of statistic. Those are really great for informative speeches. Those are really great for persuasive speeches. So those are something to consider. Now that we've talked about grand opening, let's talk about grand closing, which is also pretty similar. As you prepare to end your speech, the first thing that you're going to do, like we've discussed before, is you're going to signal. You're going to say, in conclusion, in summary, in summation, to close things out, to end. You're going to let the audience know that you're closing. You're going to summarize the points that you just discussed. After you summarize, I don't want to hear thank you. Leave me with something. Leave me with a nugget. Drop a little gem. So the same way I said you can do things in your opening and your closing, you can also pose a question. You could also leave a statistic. You could also not necessarily tell a story, but make your story come full circle. Another suggestion is song lyrics or a quote. Sometimes a little call and repeat doesn't hurt. One of my favorite things that you can do, especially in a persuasive speech or an informative speech, is a call to action. A call to action, it's kind of like posing a question in a sense, but it's challenging the audience to do something. If you do a speech about sustainability and recycling, you could challenge the audience to find ways to be more sustainable in their home. If you were doing an informative speech about how to make brownies, you could challenge the audience to create a brownie recipe with their family, or to make the recipe over the weekend, something like that. But challenging the audience gives the audience food for thought, and it is not a boring way to end. So yeah, grand opening, grand closing. Just make sure that, I think in a lot of instances, people give speeches, but you're giving the speech for the audience, not just for you. So what is the audience going to get from it? Are they going to want to pay attention? What do they feel like they are going to gain or learn from you? Why should they listen to you for 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes? It all makes it worthwhile when you strategically plan a speech with your audience in mind. If your speech is audience-centered, you want to hook them. You want to make them relate to the topic you're talking about. You want them to know that you are knowledgeable about the information that you are providing. You want to leave them with something fun or something to ponder on after you finish your speech. You want to leave them with something, because the speech is for them and not always just for you. So I definitely want you to consider all the different ways that you can open and or close your speech. So today we talked about grand opening and grand closing for ways to open and close your speech out. We are gonna probably unpack the body of your speech a lot more, but I think it's really important to figure out what works best for your personality. I have a quirky type of side, so I would probably lead with a story. I would probably maybe ask questions, but not necessarily. And keep in mind, the questions should be rhetorical. It should not be you picking people to raise their hand to answer the question. It should be a thought-provoking question, but a rhetorical one, or one that they can quietly answer to themselves. everything that I'm asking you to do or suggesting that you do should be tailored to your personality and your speaking style. So that's just something to think about. Yeah, so today was grand opening, grand closing, ways to open and to close your speech. I'm nice and cool in my home, and my video has sound, so I'm definitely excited about that. And I was really excited to talk about this subject with you all today. If I were going to think of a discussion question, I would surely ask you, which way do you feel like you could best open your speech? Again, for me, storytelling is my jam. That would be what I would do. So what would you do? I will see you guys next time.